The story of Moses and the Israelites is a very interesting one. It says, at a certain point, Moses says to the Creator, how will I get the Israelites to have certainty? So the Creator says to him, I promise you they will listen to you, because you're going to use a special word. It says in the Midrash that Jacob, who came down with his family originally of 70 souls to Egypt 210 years earlier, told his children and his grandchildren, and every generation told the next generation, there's going to be darkness, there's going to be pain, there's going to be suffering, but it's going to end. And there's going to come a time when a Redeemer, we know in retrospect it was Moses, but a Redeemer is going to come, and then at that point, of course, they have no idea who it's going to be. And how will you know, it says, that this Redeemer is truly the one who can assist you, truly the one that will end all the darkness? He will use a special word, Pakad, Pakadati. He would use the word Pakod, which literally means they were remembered, or they are being remembered. Vaya'amen ha'am. It came true. There came a point when Moses came to the Israelites, he started speaking to them, he used that special word Pakod, and the Israelites began having certainty in him as a leader and in the light of the Creator's ability to elevate them out of their darkness. The great Kabbalist Nachmanides, the Ramban, asks what would seem to be an obvious question about the story. There were hundreds of thousands initially, and then eventually millions of Israelites who all heard this story, right? From their grandfather and their great-grandfather and the great-great-grandfather, that there will come a time that a Redeemer will come and will elevate you out of this darkness. And how will you know that this is the Redeemer? Because he's going to use this special word. So just because Moses came up one day and started using that word, how was that any indication? How did that really bring the Israelites to have certainty in him as a leader, or in the ability of the light of the Creator in this moment to bring an end to pain, suffering, and death? It doesn't make any sense. Because if you wanted to be a false leader, and you, as so many other people, knew this story, then you would use that word even if you were the false Redeemer. So the story on its face, the literal story, doesn't make any sense. So the Ari and other Kabbalists reveal to us here a tremendous, and this they say was the secret that enabled the Israelites to elevate out of Egypt. This is the secret for us. Because as we know, the problem that we have is not so much that we're not doing the spiritual work or that we're not growing. Our problem is that we do not have certainty. And the limited certainty that we have limits the amount of light that we can receive. That's where the Israelites were exactly in Egypt. They wanted to have certainty. They wanted the darkness to be removed. They wanted the pain and suffering to be removed, but they couldn't bring their level of certainty to that state. And because they couldn't bring their level of certainty to that state, they could not draw that light of redemption. So Moses comes to them. There's one name, a combination. Moses came to the Israelites and he said, listen, we can't do this right now. We cannot end pain and suffering right now because your consciousness isn't there. Your certainty isn't there. Do me a favor. You remember the story that you heard from your grandparents, great-grandparents, that the Redeemer was going to come and say that word Pakod? It doesn't mean that he was going to give you a word, because the word obviously means nothing. Anybody could say the word. He was going to give you the secret of that word. The word Pakod, the Kabbalists teach, the Ari says, is equal to 184 numerically. There's one name that is equal to 184. You see it now on the screen. It's Yud Vav Daled, Yud Vav Daled Ke Yud, Yud Vav Daled Ke Yud Vav Yud Vav, Yud Vav Daled Ke Yud Vav Yud Vav Ke Yud. Those 4 lines, that one name. And Moses comes to the Israelites, says that name, this is what he did, is equal to 184. The story your great-grandparents told you, they did not mean the use of a word. They meant the use of a name. And now this is what I ask you to do, Moses says to the Israelites. Every day, once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, 10 times a day, meditate upon this name and ask for one thing. Ask for this name to become a part of you, to become yours, because it is the name, the most powerful name that I can give you to elevate your level of certainty. It says, Vaya'amen ha'am, that the Israelites came to certainty because for weeks and months and maybe even years, they kept meditating upon this name. It was the only way. Moses could have spent countless years trying to teach the Israelites. He came to them with this one secret. And this one secret name was what elevated their consciousness to a level of certainty that allowed the redemption to come. Ki Pakad Hashem, it means that the Israelites came to a place where they owned this name. And because they owned this name, they were elevated to the state of certainty that enabled the final redemption. If this was the only way the Israelites elevated their consciousness, I think it should be clear to all of us that the only way that we can elevate out of where we are, and I'm assuming we all want to, even if it's an okay place, not where we need to be, only by the use, but not just the use. We have to come to own this name. This is the name that elevates consciousness. This is the name that elevates certainty. This is the name that prepares each of us individually and all of us collectively to bring the final redemption. There's a very powerful section in the Zohar in Shemot, one that the Rav would speak about all the time. It says, at a certain point, Rabbi Shimon bacha. Rabbi Shimon started crying. And he says, Oy, woe to the person, to the people who will be alive in our time. Ve'ashrei man dezachi, and worthy is the one who merits to be in this time. Rabbi Shimon says two opposite phrases. He says, woe, it's not going to be good for those who are alive in our time. And then he says, ashrei, it's going to be an amazing time. Oy, what does it mean that it's going to be a difficult time? It says because the Creator is going to come down into this world and search all the spiritual people and see who is elevated by their work. And he will come to the conclusion that the spiritual work on its own has not elevated anybody to the level where they can receive the great light of what's called the redemption, where they can prepare the great redemption. Rabbi Shimon uses a verse that says, Va'abit ve'en ozer. The Creator looks down into the world even today and he says, there's no help. There aren't enough people who have elevated so high that I can bring that great light into this world. That's why, oi, woe, it's going to be a challenging time, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says. But then he says, what do I mean when I say ashrei? What do I mean when I say it's going to be an amazing time? Leman dezachi lemekam b'mehemnuta. Those who will be able not just, he uses the word certainty, but not just will merit to have certainty, but will merit to stand with their certainty, to keep it. Those are ashrei. Those are the people who will have the greatest time even during the challenging time of the final redemption. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai makes it really clear that it is not simply, although it's important for all of us to do the spiritual work, to be able to achieve certainty, but that is not what will make our lives ashrei. That is not what will make our experience of the world during this time, which is called the time, what we call the time before the great revelation, enjoyable and fulfilling. The only thing, the only gift that will make sure that our experience of this time is ashrei, is praiseworthy, is pleasant, is fulfilled, is man dezachi lemekam b'mehemnuta. The individual who is able not only to have certainty, to have great certainty, but to be able to hold on to it no matter what. The greatest tool that Moses gave the Israelites, and the greatest tool that I can give Yud Vav Daled, Yud Vav Daled Ke Yud, Yud Vav Daled Ke Yud Vav Yud Vav, Yud Vav Daled Ke Yud Vav Yud Vav Ke Yud. Own this name. I was talking to a student last week, and we were talking about some of the tools. And this really is what separates the true study of Kabbalah from other spiritual paths. To change, to transform, to elevate. You know what? I can't say it's difficult. I'll tell you it's impossible. But we have tools. Tools that are greater than any other tools in the world. I was talking to the student and he was saying, you know, would you say that I'll never get there if I don't use these tools? I said, look, it's hard for me to say that, but it's like saying to get from here to Los Angeles, you can walk. I'm not sure you'll get there. There's a chance. But you can fly. I'd rather fly. I don't want to walk. This name is a name we all have to begin to own. This is the name that elevated the Israelites to the state of consciousness, of certainty, that allowed the light of the complete redemption to be brought. This is the name that allows us to elevate. But we have to own it. Use it again and again and again. You have no greater tool beginning now to elevate your level of certainty, to be able to be in the state of Ashrei. There's a verse, it says, Asagvehu ki adashemi. I will elevate him or her, I will elevate them because they know the name. Yes, we need to continue doing the spiritual work. Yes, we need to continue to grow and to change. But we have an unbelievable tool that can prepare us for the great revelation. We do not want light. We do not want assistance. We want the greatest light. We want the greatest assistance. We want the final redemption. It is available to us today. And I'd like to end with a verse that Reb Brandwein, whenever he would speak to the Rav about this day of Pesach, he would use this verse. He says, on Pesach we will draw the light of the final redemption. And that prophecy, it says, Velo bechipazon tetzeu, you will not go out rushed. It will be in order. Velo bemenusa telechun, and you will not be through the oy, you will not go through the challenges of this time. Ki olech lifnechem Hashem, because the light of the Creator will precede your path. This name gives us the ability to shine our path in this time, to make sure that we are, as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, part of the Ashrei, part of those whose experience in this time of the preparation for the great revelation is filled with light and filled with blessings and filled with elevation. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all have the merit to awaken the lowest vessel, to use this tool to elevate our certainty, to come to a state where we ourselves and we prepare the world to be worthy for that greatest light, that greatest revelation, the complete removal of pain, suffering, darkness, and death from our world. Chag Sameach.